What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, I have an interesting little topic that is going to be very useful for those that are newer to franchise mode within MLB The Show, newer to MLB The Show, or maybe you're not that experienced with franchise mode. In today's video, we are going to be talking about player upgrades as the season progresses, player progression. We're going to teach you guys exactly how to read what is going on with player progression. So therefore, this is going to be a relatively quick video. However, this is also going to apply to player regression as well, and you're going to see a lot going on with your players as you progress through the season. And this actually stems from a very interesting comment that I recently got on a video, which was from a user that essentially asked, do you know what rate attributes increase and decrease at? When it says plus or minus a certain attribute, is that designated for a certain period of time? Is that over the last week? Is that over the last month? The last, I don't know, certain amount of games? Or is it a cumulative total? And I feel like that is a very important video to have a very quick demonstration on, because it is a key component to MLB The Show franchise mode that you certainly all are going to want to understand as you progress through your franchises. So first and foremost, let me go ahead and pull up Roberto Perez, who is actually an older veteran type of a player, 33 years old, not that old, but still a player that is going to have a few pluses and a few minuses on his player card. So when we take a look at Roberto Perez here, we're going to see that he has +4 to his contact right, he has a couple pluses to his power, his vision, but he's also getting a negative to his discipline, his bunting, he's getting pluses to fielding, drag bunting, and a couple of minuses to his stealing. And ultimately, what we are trying to determine in today's video is the time frame of when these things are actually occurring. And just to give you the quick answer to begin the video before we do more demonstration of the fact, it is a cumulative total. So you will see at this point in the franchise that we are actually all the way into August. So we have gone through a large portion of the season. In fact, we've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4 months, 4.5 months worth of gameplay, and we are getting those adjustments to our players within the franchise mode. And when, like I said, when we take a look at Roberto Perez, you can see pluses and minuses, and that's more common for an older player that may be around their maxed potential. They may just be kind of stagnating where they're at. They might get a couple pluses here, a couple minuses there, and this is going to be dependent on performance. So the thing that you guys are definitely going to want to look into is how is the player performing in relation to those pluses and minuses, because that's what's going to drive what goes up and what goes down. So for example, Roberto Perez is getting -2 to stealing. Well, it's taking him down to 0 because he doesn't steal bases. He's not known for stealing bases. He hasn't stolen any bases for us during the season. Therefore, it's going to drop that and compensate in other areas that he is performing well at. Nonetheless, though, these pluses and minuses are going to be cumulative for the season so far. So if I go ahead and take a look at a prospect, for example, and just one good example here is a player that has performed pretty solidly well for us that has a potential in G1 Buy, we're going to go ahead and click on him, and you'll see a fair amount of pluses for this player that are affecting his development and affecting his overall rating, as well as those individual ratings as you can see on the screen. So you're seeing a bunch of +1s, +2s, +3s. He even has +11 to durability, which is kind of crazy. I don't know exactly what's going on that is causing all of these things to specifically go up, but you can see on a general basis, he is developing well as a player. He's developing well across the board, and this is cumulative of his performance all the way through this point in the season. Now, what I wanted to do to help finish off this video to show you guys exactly how this process shakes out and exactly what I'm talking about is start a completely fresh franchise. We'll pick a player or two to take a look at as we go through. We'll simulate through the season and track their progression. So we might as well go to second base where we were at before, and we can take a look at Michael Chavis, for example, and Nick Gonzalez. So remember those two players, Michael Chavis, Nick Gonzalez, one of them starting out as a 77 overall with B potential, and one of them starting as a 69 overall with B potential. When we take a look at both of their player cards, you're seeing no plus pluses or minuses to their player cards whatsoever. However, whenever we go ahead and advance through the first 2.5 weeks roughly of the season, and then we go back to the roster, you guys will very quickly and easily see that there's really not much going on with these player ratings. We're not getting any positives to Michael Chavis. We're not getting any positives to Nick Gonzalez. I did want to highlight Diego Castillo, who is getting a couple of negatives to show you that it is not necessarily purely on a monthly basis that these changes can happen, but we're generally not really seeing any changes so far to this point. If I go ahead and simulate through another week and a half here, or 2 weeks roughly of time, and then I go ahead back to the players, we'll get another look at what's going on with them. Still no pluses there, a couple more minuses to Diego Castillo actually, and no positives to Nick Gonzalez. However, you will come to the end of each month, and this is a relatively important point to remember, is that a lot of these pluses and minuses will occur when performance is evaluated at the end of each month. Now again, they will remain cumulative for the entire season, and I'll demonstrate that even further in a moment, but I went ahead and advanced to the month of May, and we will now go to the player cards for these players, and I will show you guys that Michael Chavis is now getting a couple of negatives to his performance, probably because he's not performing very well, only batting 184, and Nick Gonzalez also has the cold symbol, not performing very well, getting a couple of minuses in a certain area, but also getting a plus in another. And we were also taking a look at Diego Castillo before. We take a look at him again. He now has earned more negatives in that category as well. Advancing forward yet one more month here, we are going to take one more look at these ratings before I go ahead and take a look at my next demonstration and show you guys that the ratings have changed even further. You saw that little pop-up that I got. That's what's going to happen at the end of each month. You'll get those performance updates. If I go back to my second baseman, I'm now going to see even more pluses and minuses from Michael Chavis here. Same thing for Diego Castillo. Now he's getting pluses to his contact, which he wasn't getting before, and a bunch of negatives in other areas. And Nick Gonzalez has gone back up to a 69, even though he was down to a 68 when we last checked. He's getting different pluses and minuses as well. However, in order to demonstrate that these are indeed a cumulative total and they're not just resetting each month, for example, it's not just saying +1 after this month, resetting, and then saying +1 after the next month. In order to actually demonstrate that for you, I'm going to go ahead in to Nick Gonzalez, and I'm just going to take his contact way up on the right side and the left side and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. I might as well go in and take his power all the way down on both sides so we can see the negative cumulatives as well. And then whenever I go ahead and click back onto this player, it is then going to show the cumulative change from that. And if I were to go ahead and advance again another month, for example, as you can see, I'm doing very quickly right here, advancing through to the next month, we will then get another updated cumulative total for that player. So going back to second base, for example, and taking a look at Nick Gonzalez, he is still getting those massive positives and negatives in those categories. They haven't reset in any way, shape, or form. Again, this just proves the point that it is a cumulative total, and that is something that you want to be aware of as you are trying to develop players, trying to keep track of progression and regression within franchise mode, and nonetheless a very important bit of information that you would want to understand or should try to understand about franchise mode, especially if you're newer to the game and are not familiar with how these things work. So ultimately, that is what the pluses and minuses mean above each player's rating within the game in terms of whether they are tracking at a certain point of time or not. Hopefully this information was useful to you in some way, and as always, if it was, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below as well. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a good one.